Good morning. I'm Anna Marie De La Vega. This is Focus. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're talking with Emily McKinley, the Director of External Affairs with Tennessee Donor Services. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, now let's start, I guess, from just scratch. What is Tennessee Donor Services?
Yes, Tennessee Donor Services is a nonprofit healthcare organization serving the majority of Tennesseans, and we make organ donation happen.
Wow.
So when you find out that someone needs a transplant, our team's on that back end working with donor families to make that donation happen.
I guess you've probably seen a lot of that end result from something like that. From me signing on my driver license that I want to donate an organ or donate my organs to the end result. Do you have a story you could share with us?
Absolutely. So organ donation is life-saving. It's not just life-changing, it's life-saving. It gives a second chance at life.
Yeah.
And so we work with those families. We get to walk alongside those families as they're in their deepest moments of grief and making the decisions about donation.
Oh, wow.
So we have the privilege also of working with those families and following their story for years after their donation. So we have, for example, here in Middle Tennessee, there is a family whose son passed away just before his 16th birthday from an accident. And he was an avid sportsman. He was an avid athlete and hunter and fisher. And so he is actually the face of an initiative that we've had with Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to expand our registry, something that's going to be happening here soon. And being able to talk with that family and hear their journey as they have become members of this club they never asked to be part of,
Right.
but then have known that their son, who was a giving and loving and talented young man, has gone on to save lives and make a difference. And then they've also gone on to create an additional foundation to help support individuals who, siblings really, and adolescents who are grieving, to help support them with peer support and grief support. So this is far-reaching, the impacts of an organ donor. One organ donor can save as many as 8 lives and improve 75 more through tissue donation.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. So those are just direct impacts, just the direct impacts. When you think that each one of those people touch their family members, their friends, their coworkers. They might be community leaders. There's a community leader in Hendersonville who she touches thousands of lives every single day through her job, and she wouldn't be here without an organ donor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's really incredible what organ donation can do and the ripple effect of donation.
I want to ask you in a moment what organs are used, but also what situations people get into where they need a new organ.
Sure. First off, the organs that are typically recovered and can be recovered to save a life are your heart, your lungs, kidneys, liver, pancreas, and intestines.
Oh, wow.
Those are the life-saving organs. But in addition, tissue can be recovered. So when we're talking about tissue, we're talking about skin that can maybe be used for burn victims or reconstruction for a mastectomy.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about veins and arteries, ligaments, bone. All of those things can be made into grafts that can enhance your mobility. They can help restore your ability to move through life, to experience life, to enjoy life. And then also heart valves is another one. That's life-saving tissue. If you've known children who have been born with congenital birth defects, things of that nature, that heart tissue can also be used to repair the heart. So lots of different opportunities there for life-saving and improving transplants. Another one also is corneal tissue. So one donor can give somebody else the gift of sight, someone who has lost their vision or has been blind and now can see again. So there are lots of opportunities for donation. And the reason someone might need a transplant vary quite widely. when you're talking about your heart, your kidneys, your liver, things of those nature, that's obviously organ failure. So it might be heart failure, it might be kidney failure. We hear about that a lot with individuals who have maybe diabetes, they might have family diseases, things of that nature might cause that need for a transplant.
You know, you just reminded me, I do know someone who was affected. My friend's husband had polycystic kidney disease. And he needed a transplant. He had to go on dialysis and wait and wait and wait and wait, and then got a kidney transplant. It gave him added years to his life.
Absolutely. And we hear that the majority of people on the wait list, there are 100,000 Americans who are currently waiting for a life-saving transplant.
Whoa.
Most of those are waiting on a kidney. So that's very, very common. And that's obviously the most needed organ as well.
Mm-hmm. How long are the wait times to receive an organ?
Kidneys, you can wait for 5 years. That's an average amount of time to wait for kidneys. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he was on dialysis. And we're talking about hours every single day. 4 and 5 hours a day, hooked up to a machine. It can be multiple days a week. And these individuals really experience a completely new life once they receive their life-saving organ transplant.
Wow. We talked to transplant surgeon a while back, and he said that sometimes after receiving a donated organ, people have said things like, I feel like I'm 20 years old again, because they didn't realize how much their energy levels, their everything, their spirits, everything had declined because it kind of happened slowly. And then suddenly they were like, oh my gosh, I'm alive. I'm actually alive again.
Absolutely. And we hear that all the time. That's one of the wonderful things about doing the job that we do is we get to hear those success stories. We also get to hear from the donor families who say that they have hope again, or they know that their loved one's legacy continues on. And many times they get to connect with the recipients of their loved one's gifts, and that gives them an extended family. So they absolutely experienced incredible grief and loss, but they also gained family members. They gained a hope from that and a knowledge that their loved one continues on in this incredibly vibrant way. Just like you said, you know, I've got a friend who is a double lung recipient, and she talks about being able to keep up with her then adolescent daughter, going from not being able to walk feet, you know, or hundreds of feet without gasping for air. And then being able to turn that around to walking miles with her daughter within weeks of her transplant.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I talked to a lady years ago, and she said she had received a heart from a teenage girl who had passed away, and the mom wanted to meet her. And she said the mom walked in, and she said she wanted to hear the heartbeat. She said, I want to hear my daughter's heart. And the lady said, yes, please. And she did. She went to listen to the heart, and she said she felt like it jumped. And they both felt this amazing connection because of what the mom had done, and to keep her daughter, not only her memory, but part of her alive.
Absolutely. And I think that's really what we hear over and over again is this gratitude and hope that the donor families have because their hero is still living and still has a legacy. That vibrancy that they recall them having in life is still living on. And on the flip side, we also see with transplant recipients, many of them are experiencing this eternal gratitude and this abundant gratitude for those gifts that they received. They know that they've received a second chance at life, and they want to live these full and vibrant and wonderful, good lives where they're giving back to others because they know how much they've received and how much their loved ones have benefited from them being here.
They want to live a meaningful and a purposeful life, not just take it for granted. A lot of people are they're dead already. They're just kind of sitting around waiting for things to stop instead of living a full, purposeful, meaningful life. And I guess that has to change your complete mindset when you know this is my second chance that I didn't have to get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When they've had to confront death in that way. So I think, organ donation is a wonderful life-saving gift that everyone is able to give or should consider themselves able to give to others and to register for that and express their wishes, their decision to their family to be an organ donor so that can be honored when they pass.
So the family's not going like, wait.
Exactly.
If you're just joining us, I'm Anna Marie, and this is Focus, and we're talking about organ donation. Tennessee Donor Services, Emily McKinley is here, and we're talking about the life-changing and life-saving effects of organ donation. And you said everyone can do this. When you get to a certain point, are you like, okay, I'm too old now?
Nope. No, we actually want everyone to consider themselves a potential donor. So we like to tell people you're never too old, you're never too sick to register as a donor. And you can do that here in Tennessee at donatelifetn.org.
Okay.
And that is a way that you can share your decision for what happens after you pass away. We don't know what medicine will allow when you pass. And we don't know, the health of your body at the time of your passing of your organs. And so we encourage every single person to register as a donor.
Because it could be your cornea, it could be tissue, it could be tendons,
Exactly.
it could be something else. Even if your heart weren't like strong and healthy enough to donate, it could be parts of the rest of you that could change somebody's life.
That's exactly right. And that's often the part that's overlooked too, because so many people have had ACL surgeries, or they might have had a dental implant that requires a graft to build up their jaw again. There are lots of different
bone graft. Oh,
absolutely. So there are lots of different applications for tissue that can be life-changing for individuals and improve one's health and their experience in life, their relationships, because they're not in pain.
Oh. Are there specific reasons that people give for not becoming an organ donor?
Yeah, we hear those quite frequently. One is just as you said, I'm too old, you don't want this. Anyways, we don't know. We don't know when we're going to pass. We don't know the circumstances of our death. And like you said, tissue can be used regardless. We also hear, well, I'm afraid that if something happens, medical professionals won't save my life. And that's absolutely a myth. That's their number one job. Their job is to save your life, and they don't know whether or not you're an organ or tissue donor. So they are focused only on giving you life-saving measures and doing everything in their power to save your life. It's only after end-of-life discussions have happened or that an individual has deteriorated to a point where organ donation is even considered. So those are the primary ones that we hear.
That makes sense. It's not like the doctor's going like, okay, this heart looks good, let's pull the plug on this dude or whatever.
Right.
No.
Absolutely. No, they're there to save your life. And it's only after those end of life conversations have happened or someone has been declared brain dead that our teams even come in and start the conversation and offer that opportunity for organ donation.
That has to be hard, to be the team that starts that conversation with the family.
Absolutely. I think our teams who do that have the hardest job. They are walking in on families who are likely have experienced a traumatic event, unexpected passing of their loved one, and their loved ones, the next of kin, the family are trying to process that loss, and our teams are then there to walk them through the opportunities that are available to them, including that their loved one is able to be a donor, and then also the support that they receive. Again, this is a community that no one wants to be a part of, but they find themselves confronting in certain circumstances, and
Yeah.
and being offered the ability to be part of this community, and getting support, bereavement support, memorials, and opportunities to recognize their loved one, and then to bring that hope to that family. So it
Yeah.
is about offering not just the opportunity for that physical organ donation, but the opportunity for hope and legacy beyond that moment.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Because even if, like you said, it might be completely unexpected, and then if a family then decides now we want to donate organs, they wouldn't know where to start. So your team comes in and says, "Here's where to start.
That's exactly right.
Here's what we can do." And so, what are some of the supports? Like, will it cost to donate organs?
It does not. So once an individual has met certain clinical criteria and their health has declined to that point where they're meeting those criteria, or those end of life discussions
Yeah.
have happened, the hospital then calls in Tennessee Donor Services to discuss the opportunity for donation.
Yeah.
And that's when the Tennessee Donor Services team, or the organ procurement organization team, evaluates that patient to see whether or not they would have potential for donation. If they do, that's when our team meets with the family member. And that conversation is, again, extending the opportunity for donation, the opportunity for support. We provide bereavement support, very concentrated.
What does that mean?
And concerted. So grief support as the families are grieving and going through that for 2 years, we follow very, very closely. Beyond that, it depends on what the family wants and the engagement. We provide the opportunity for memorials and keepsakes to be done at the bedside, and then thereafter recognizing their donor hero for the gifts that they are giving and their selflessness and generosity. We also work with families throughout the year, but work with families to tell their stories. And you see a lot of that happening in April, which is Donate Life Month. You'll see flag raisings at hospitals and different ceremonies honoring donor heroes that have given their life throughout the year. Those typically do happen in April, but you'll see opportunities for support. And then my team gets the absolute pleasure of working with those donor hero families as well as transplant recipients to share their stories.
Oh, wow.
To amplify the life-saving and changing effects of donation.
Now, when you say a memorial or something at bedside, what would that be? Give me an idea, because we don't know. We've not been there, so we don't know. What does that mean, and how can that comfort the families?
Yeah, so sometimes that's going to vary by hospital. That could vary also by the organ procurement organization that's serving the area. One of the things that I know our team likes to provide families with is a thumbprint keepsake pendant that they can have with them. Another thing is we work with a lot of hospitals to do honor walks. And that's something that some of the listeners may have seen on the news before or have encountered with a friend or community member. That's where a donor hero is taken through the halls to that recovery surgery. And the halls of the hospital are lined by the hospital staff, the medical staff, their friends, their family. During COVID, you might have seen it happening across pedestrian bridges and things, or the sky bridges of hospital to different units.
Oh, my gosh.
You would see people maybe outside of those, lining those areas. And it gives the donor family an opportunity to say goodbye to their loved one and see that difference, that impact that they're making on the community, and for the community to pay respects to that donor.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens is that when a donor is taken into a recovery surgery, the team has a moment of silence to honor that individual's gifts, and information about that individual is read out to the entire OR team. It is an absolutely heart-wrenching, amazing moment, so that everyone in that recovery surgery room knows that this is a gift, that this was an individual who is loved and cherished. And we accompany that with an I want you to know card that the families will write out that prompts them, and it says, I want you to know, and that is read along with just some information about the donor so that we make sure that we are focusing on the person and the hero that is before us before that recovery surgery begins.
I want you to know would be maybe like what?
I want you to know that it really varies widely. It can be from a favorite thing, some quirk, or a fun little humorous note about an individual to very, very serious and sentimental items. But just think of what you might say about your loved one. You know, what would you want someone else to know as they're moving on and their legacy is being continued?
Wow. I like that. That it's a very respectful,
Absolutely.
appreciated act.
Absolutely.
Because we talk about war heroes who give their lives for their country. This is a hero who has given a life to someone else.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. These are heroes who have given their life. They are being selfless and generous. Their families are being selfless and generous to honor that decision. Our hope is, of course, that the transplant recipient on the other side of it leads a long and healthy life.
Yeah.
But we do know that they're getting time.
Yes.
Regardless, they get more time with their family, and we hope that that is impactful time. And it's really cool when you do get to connect. There are lots of stories of donor families and the transplant recipients connecting. That's something else our organization helps do, is connect those who wish to be connected.
Oh, wow.
And they share their stories, or they share their family or their holiday celebrations with one another.
Oh, my goodness.
It's very moving.
And it forms community in an unexpected place.
Absolutely.
Are there certain people who are more likely to donate organs than others? Does it tend to be more ladies, more men?
On our registry here in Tennessee, we see slightly more women are signed up. We also see a need for more individuals from communities of color to register and sign up as organ donors. On the national wait list, about 60% of our national wait list is made up of individuals from communities of color. That's about the same here in Tennessee, but our number of individuals from racial and ethnic communities here in Tennessee, it's only about 9% on our registry.
To donate.
Yes. So we really need to see more individuals from communities of color register. Matches aren't made according to racial or ethnic background. However, we know that they're more likely to match.
Whoa.
And we know that transplants are more successful when made within the same racial or ethnic group. So the more diversity that we can have on our registry means the more diversity that we can have in the lives that are saved.
If you're just joining us, I'm Anna Marie, and this is Focus, and we're talking with Emily McKinley with Tennessee Donor Services. So what are you doing? I know you're doing interviews like this. You do outreach. Inform more of our community here in the Middle Tennessee area and in Tennessee about what it's about. But I think, is it possible that part of the reason there are not as many people of color on the donor list is that they had not been told about it, kind of, as part of a cultural?
Yeah, cultural influences definitely play into that. And we see that across the board, across the United States. Obviously, when there are varying demographics in a community, you're going to see that play out. I think here in Tennessee, we're looking primarily at the Black population here in Tennessee. And there is a history of mistrust with the medical community, with the general community, and that is warranted. And there are reasons for that mistrust. And so, of course, there might be some more reluctance. There's a lack of understanding regarding the process and how that happens, just as we see in the community at large.
Yes, of course.
You know, we talked earlier about the myths about donation. Number one being that a medical professional won't save a life. That's not true. That's their job to do that. So I think it's more about reassuring and showing in practice that our teams are here to save lives. We are here to help that legacy of life continue when someone passes away. And so we continue to have conversations. We continue to engage our community. In Tennessee, we have a Black Family Health Advisory Council that helps to advise us on best practices and our language, who to reach out to, how to better engage the Black community in particular, so that we are addressing the right concerns, that we are meeting the families where they are and discussing the questions that they have and responding to the concerns and questions that they have. I think that's really important, that we're seen as a community partner who's responding. Our hope would be that we are all out of a job, that the wait list
Tennessee Donor Services.
Yeah. If the wait list doesn't exist and we're all out of a job. And so if we can talk about that, and if we can help communities also talk about what are the health issues, what's the preventative health that can be done, or how to get a screening even so that they know that a transplant might be available. If we can help with those conversations as well, we're happy to do that. So, but of course we want to answer any questions that there are about donation as a whole.
What about if I wanted to donate something now?
Living donation? Yeah. So our team does not handle living donation, but those who are interested in becoming living donors can certainly do so by contacting a transplant center near where they live and getting tested. There's altruistic donation where you don't know someone who is currently in need, but you say, hey, I'm willing to be tested. And the transplant centers handle that. There's also many, many opportunities in cases where an individual might have a family member, a friend who's in need of a transplant, and they might put out a request to their friends and family to get tested. And there's actually a new process, relatively new. It's called an exchange, a living donor exchange. And so that's where one individual might have a family member or a friend who is willing to make that living donation on their behalf, but they're not a match. And so they say, hey, I was willing to do this anyways. If you can find a match and it bumps my friend up on the list, I will give it. And so there are kidney chains. There's a gentleman on my staff actually who has received his kidney through a kidney exchange, and about 6 people in this chain received a kidney because his match was a match for someone somewhere else who was a match for another whose friend was a match for someone else, and it just went down the chain until he received his. And that's a really wonderful way to continue to give life. So whether that's living donation or deceased donation, and deceased donation, you can't take it with you.
Right.
You've passed away.
Yeah.
You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Whether it's living or deceased donation, it is a huge and amazing gift that you are giving to someone and their family and their friends and everyone in their circle that they encounter.
So if we're interested, we want to find out more, we go to
DonateLifeTN.org is a great place to go. You can register, which is signing up. And that's your decision to be an organ and tissue donor.
Now, if I already have it on my driver license, do I need to do that as well?
You do not. You're always encouraged, though, if you have any sort of question about that, you can go back and register. That's fine as well. Here in Tennessee, if you have signed up on your driver's license, you have that heart on your license, you will see when you go and try to register at DonateLifeTN.org, it'll pop up saying that you are already on the registry.
Yay.
If you've moved around a lot or if you're listening in another area, BeTheGiftToday.com is a great place to register. It will take you directly to your state registry or the national registry if your state doesn't have one.
Thank you so much. Anything I've neglected to ask that's important to add?
I think the biggest thing is just everyone is encouraged to consider themselves a donor and that they can save as many as 8 lives and improve 75 more by signing up to be an organ donor at DonateLifeTN.org.
So please do. Emily McKinley, Director of External Affairs with Tennessee Donor Services. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll put more links on our Focus Facebook page. Please make sure you join us again next week. I'm Anna Marie, and that's Focus.